Welcome to Women Who Brand, Season 2, a podcast that spotlights inspiring women shaping the future of brands and culture. I'm Alejandra Salazar, founder and CEO of CROING, which is part of the 0.1% of creative agencies founded by a woman. And I'll be your host today. This podcast is part of an initiative of CROING to support and guide women in marketing leadership positions by listening to other stories and insights because we believe that that's one way to move our industry towards something more meaningful and real for our audiences. Women Who Brand are creative, strategic, and visionary forces redefining the world of marketing by leading teams and building brands that connect with people. This season, we will go beyond inspiration and explore how these amazing women build culture, lead with purpose, and make brand decisions you can apply to your own journey. Now, join me in welcoming our next Woman Who Brand, Heather Cutter. Hey!
Thank you. Happy to be
I'm
here.
so happy to have you here, love. Heather is the Chief Growth Officer at Good Culture. We first came across at South by Southwest, where you were talking about motherhood and being a woman. And I shared that with my sister, Angie, who works with me, and she was really connected with what you were sharing. And since then, we've been looking for ways to collab with the brand and the agency. And I'm so thrilled to have you here. So to start, I would love to get to know about the leader behind Good Culture a bit more. So can you tell us a bit about your journey, how you got into this role, and what is it about?
Yeah. So my journey, I think, is pretty unconventional in terms of becoming a woman who brands. I was always really obsessed with brands and product, but I did not study business. I did not study marketing. I actually was a liberal arts major. I studied English and literature. So, very far from kind of where I am now. But I think really three things that I took away from that: critical thinking, super important as a marketer; creativity and creative writing; and curiosity. So I started in school thinking that I wanted to be a professor, actually, and teach. And towards the end of my last year in college, I had this mentor professor who knew me really well. And he called me into his office one day. I was going to go to grad school. And he said, I just don't really envision that for you. You're going to end up in a small town teaching English at a college somewhere. And you just seem like you're going places, like you want to be somewhere. And so that was really important, but also sort of surprising. And I didn't really have a plan. So I quickly pivoted. I decided to go to law school, actually, kind of on a whim because my best friend was going and it seemed like a good idea. But I got into that, and about a semester in, I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer. This is not for me. And then here I was. It was the mid-90s, and I didn't really have any skills other than, English, and I didn't really have a plan. So as you did in the mid-90s, I actually answered an ad out of a newspaper for a job, which was in business. It was actually in at the Sears, as in the retail store, corporate office. And that's how my journey began. It was not in marketing. It was in supply chain, ironically. And I spent about 10 years really doing a variety of roles, not in marketing, but definitely supply chain, a little bit of tech. I worked for some interesting brands. Like I worked for The Gap. I worked for Gymboree, which was a clothing brand, but I was doing a support function. And I learned a lot of really valuable skills and I was enjoying myself. But there was a moment kind of in my mid 30s where I was thinking about what I do, and I really felt a little disconnected to the business and the brand itself because I was kind of in a background role. And I made a very conscious decision that I wanted to do something that I felt more connected to. And so by that time I was living in San Francisco, and I just stepped back and I thought, what are some companies that I'd like to work for, or brands that I'd like to work for? I kind of went down my list of places that I loved. And one of the brands that I was obsessed with as a consumer was Method, the household cleaning and soap company. And I knew that they were headquartered in San Francisco. They had an innovation job open, which on paper, I thought to myself, I'm not qualified, but I looked at all the things you need to be able to do. And I thought, well, actually, I can do all these things. I just need to convince them of this. So sent a pretty, I would say, clever cover letter and just hoped for the best. Again, this is like back when you sent cover letters and hoped. And I was lucky enough to get a chance. Came in, really talked about in the interview process how I hadn't done this before, but I'd done these other things that were similar. And fortunately, I had someone take a chance on me. And that was really the start of it. So that brand and that culture was really foundational in how I look at branding. Founder led by super creative people, an amazing team of people. And I cut my teeth there really learning marketing from a product standpoint. So how do you take a product from the seed of an idea to on the shelf? And it really connected for me because it was so incredibly tangible. It was like, oh, first there's nothing, and then there's like a thing that you can hold in your hand. And it was a really great experience. It was really energetic. And from there, I just like fell in love with brands. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so from that point, I kind of made a decision of, I'm only going to work on brands that I am a brand stan, that I think this is a somebody that's connecting with me and can connect with others. And his second thing was doing good in the world. Like I wanted to work on things where the brand was doing something to make the world a better place. And the third thing was disruption, because, that was really, Method was very much about disrupting the cleaning products in the, in the personal care aisle. And I really found that inspirational. But I would say I also was passionate about food, and I wanted to pivot into food. So take that same skill and move into food. And so then I worked at a number of brands, and each one of them, I think interestingly, were at points in my life where I connected as a consumer. So I worked at a baby food brand called Plum Organics. There I took on more of a marketing role in the product side. So really thinking about how to position products and bring them to market. So, Plum was great. Again, really smart people, really cool brand, and disruptive. And we were acquired. So I moved on to another few roles. But I would say the next really pivotal point for me was Harmless Harvest, the coconut water brand. So there I came in the role that I'd been doing, this kind of, innovation, product marketing. But pretty quickly in the beginning, I took on all of marketing. And so I think it's important to talk about this in that I have a pattern of leaders saying to me like, hey, I know you haven't done this thing before, but I think you can do it. Mm-hmm. And I think a little bit of fearlessness to try it. So I said yes. And it turned out to be awesome. Really, that's when I got the full scope of marketing in my purview. And interestingly, I was there for 5.5 years, but also took on leading sales, which I think is a unique perspective as a marketer. So, that's the role I have today as well. So it encompasses sales and marketing. So had a great experience there. We also were acquired, and I was fortunate enough at that point to really step back and go like, okay, what is the brand I want to work on next? And I had a vision board, and good culture was absolutely at the top of the list. It was a brand that I loved as a consumer, and I saw that they were blowing up, and I sort of just kind of put a flag in my brain and got a serendipitous call one day, actually for a different job. That job wasn't the right job for me, but the recruiter at the end of the call said, oh, do you know this company, Good Culture? And I said, yes, I do. And I felt like I'd manifested it. And they said, well, they're hiring a chief growth officer. So I was on the phone the next day, really, with the founder, and it was just pure serendipity, but it worked out great. So I've been there for about 2 years. It's been amazing. It is the most beloved brand I've ever worked on. It's super fun to work somewhere where there's fans that love you so much. One of my favorite things is when I'm traveling for work, I'll have a piece of merch on or my backpack that says Good Culture. And literally people stop me all the time and tell me how much they love the brand. So it's been super fun.
Thank you for sharing, because it's so important. I always ask this question at the beginning, and really the path is just so different when you think on other type of careers that might be, like a doctor or engineer. Well, my path was, X, Y, and Z. And here is like all the time I listen and I hear many, many, many ways to get there. So it's really exciting, and thank you for sharing. So I want to ask you, throughout your career, which it's been amazing, how do you evaluate whether an idea or an initiative is the right one to move forward with? Do you follow a specific process, or is more of a feeling, especially now that you are, as you said, like you have sales and marketing under your scope? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say generally I am more of an intuitive person than a data person, although I do think research and data are very useful, and I find them valuable. So I trust my gut a lot, but when I'm considering an idea, I'm a pretty introverted person. And so oftentimes I will listen, and or if I have an idea myself, and I'll sit with it. So there are moments of clarity for me. I'm a big runner. I love yoga. And so I will usually kind of sit, I'll take notes down, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and write notes down, but kind of think about it, make sure the idea is clear in my head. And then from there, I would say I'm pretty open to trying new things, and I encourage my team to do the same thing. We do take big swings. We take a lot of risks, as long as it's clear what the objective is for the idea and we think we can meet it. And, we have reason to believe it's going to work. And so, once I have an idea or I've been given an idea, and thought through it on my own, I also really like to include others. I think the best ideas and knowing whether an idea has legs really require you to build. And so, I will talk to people at various places along the way who either will be responsible for execution, who might add a creative build, or who might tell me what is wrong with the idea. I'm not afraid to talk to those people either. And then usually we go. And I will say that if there's a way to do a small, dip your toe in the water first moment, we'll try it, but sometimes that's not possible if it's a big idea. And if it's big enough and it feels right, we'll just go for it.
Love it. And I ask this question because our audience include a lot of marketers that are starting, but mostly women in high leadership positions that are often in front of this type of decisions. And everyone has different path to, take those decisions and move forward. And it's so inspiring listening from you because, of course, Good Culture is a brand known by such decisions. So thank you for sharing.
I also think you have to have a personal approach, but it's also what does your organization support?
Correct.
I think, some companies, be it bigger or more established organizations, they may have a much more rigorous testing and evaluation process. It's not by happenstance that I usually don't work in those brands. I like to work for a founder-led brand where people are open to being bold and taking risks. And I think that aligns with personal values.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's important that you clarify it because, of course, it sounds like just go. But if you work in a structure that is actually so huge and difficult to actually get an idea to exist, I get the difference for sure. So, but you were talking about collaboration and how you involve, when these ideas came, involve many people from the teams. And at CROING, the agency, we believe in collaboration over competition and that working closely with teams and partners really create the best cultural relevant campaigns. But it sounds ideal though. It sounds ideal to have everything perfectly seamless, working together, collaborating, everyone. But in practice, it can be challenging. So how do you approach collaborations between teams and external partners? And what tips do you have for keeping everyone in sync?
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone understands what the goals are and kind of setting that up front. And if we're all aligned on that, the collaboration happens more smoothly. Also, because we're a small team, when we work with agencies, we want them to be an extension of our team. Or if we work with a partner, we want them to be an extension of our team and really live and breathe the same DNA we are. And so we will take time up front to make sure that it feels like a cohesive team because we are moving quickly, we can be pretty fluid and we need everyone to kind of be able to think like the brand. And so I think that's really important when you're working with partners to make sure that those values are clear, kind of how good culture shows up in the world and what it looks like is really clear. And then once that happens, I think we are aligned and things are smooth and it works really well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I would love now to hear your point of view on how brands show up in ways that feel relevant to people, because that's such a topic and everyone is really, or not everyone, but it's a way to be in business, I think. So who is Good Culture's target audience? And within that, which audience or community do you find the easiest and the hardest to reach today and why?
Yeah, so cottage cheese in general, as a food, I think up until the last few years, is very much viewed as your grandmother's food. An older demographic. I remember my mom eating cottage cheese on a diet growing up. It was very much kind of a boomer generational food. And so the whole thesis, Jesse, our founder, that he started with for Good Culture was cottage cheese is an overlooked superfood. It could be beloved as much as yogurt, but it kind of needs a reimagine both like from a brand standpoint and from a product standpoint. And his idea from the beginning, more than 10 years ago, was if we are successful and we can make cottage cheese cool and sexy, maybe we can get Gen X to eat cottage cheese. That was the original thesis. And that was working well. And good culture was getting Gen X and maybe some older millennials to eat it. Enter social media. So, I think this is a really relevant question for us because so much of the brand's current relevancy has been born out of what's happening virally on social media. And so in 2023, there was a recipe collab that the brand was doing for ice cream made out of cottage cheese, and that went viral. And so it's kind of the ultimate example of being relevant in culture. And so since I've been here, that virality really brought younger millennials and Gen Z to the party. And so that's really the audience we're going after. And when we talk about what we're doing for the category, it's really bringing in a whole new generation of consumers into the category. So when we market, when we talk to our consumers, we're talking to that younger demographic. I think every marketer will say Gen Z is the hardest. And I would kind of agree and I would disagree. We've been really successful in having and holding their attention. I think the challenge with Gen Z, and I feel like I can say this with authority because I have 4 Gen Z children. The challenge is how do you keep their attention and don't do anything that turns them off? So that's really something that we think about a lot. And it's a constantly moving set of things that they're interested in. And so I'm not a Gen Z or a millennial, I'm a Gen X. And so it's really important for me that we have a team full of millennials and Gen Zs. And that's what I have. And so, those are the people I'm looking to go, how do we make sure we're reaching that audience? Not to mention taking inspiration from when I make my children cringe at home. And I know that that's not the right thing that we want to go after.
When you mentioned the Gen Z and how to keep their attention, I saw, and we're working on a white paper for it, because there is the marketing funnel, the traditional marketing funnel, which is awareness, engagement, consideration, conversion, and how Gen Zs kind of change or need a different marketing funnel, which is inspiration, exploration, community, and loyalty. And I think you guys nail it there. And probably that's why you're keeping the audience. For example, for millennials, is this a lot of information on socials that we tend to be like, it's too much, but for Gen Zs, they are used to that. So they are scrolling and looking for information until they find the gem, to stay. Which to me is that instead of awareness, that inspiration, right? They are constantly looking to get inspired. Beyond having the team, which is what you just said, understanding how their brains operate in terms of the marketing funnel, the traditional marketing funnel, has been helpful for us when it comes to make them stay. So it's interesting. It's really interesting.
It is. Agree. And I think for us as such a digitally focused brand, and a creator and community focused brand, what you said really resonates with me, which is it's a bit of a content machine, and we are constantly putting, content out either that we create or we create with others. And it doesn't always work perfectly, but you have to stay one step ahead of what is authentic and engaging for consumers at that time. And it's actually one of the more fun parts of the job because we're always thinking about ways in. Everything from kind of how we got here, which is what we call food FOMO. People love to look at food content and have kind of the next big thing that's happening in food, but it can be a number of other ways in. I mean, we've tried everything from comedy to nutrition to, a pop culture moment.
Yeah, it's endless. It's really endless. And as long as you are really connected to the brand and what the brand offer and the audience and what the audience are expecting or trying to find, that's fantastic. Actually, I read something about the fear of running out, and for me it's like, yes, this is good culture for sure, because that's what people feel. So that's fantastic. So thinking about the hardest audience to reach, which we could say are Gen Z, which I wouldn't say reach, but inspire. What do you think is most important to them in how your brand shows up?
Yeah, I think authenticity, really, kind of doing what you say and meaning it. So yeah, that's it's like the blessing and the curse of being viral, right? You're constantly in front of people and they're interested, but you're constantly in front of people and they're interested.
Correct.
So I think that authenticity and really living into the brand values and why people love you and connecting individually to those consumers is super important.
Something our audience here at the Women Who Run podcast, which includes, as I said, CMOs and marketers in top leadership position, is always trying to figure out how to respond to cultural moments or trends. Everyone has their own approach, and I would love to hear yours. Do you have a process for responding? Do you react immediately, or does it take time? And has there been a recent pop culture moment where God culture reacted or found inspiration for a creative decision?
Yeah, I love this question. So definitely it's an everyday thing for us. There's all day, every day, what's happening, and then there's big moments. So I'll talk about both. I think on the all day, everything, being relevant is being quick and being able to respond to those things quickly. So we have our own team in house. We do work with agencies too, but we respond to a lot of the here and now with our team. And that can be anything from a piece of content or a trend that's happening. So an example would be, recently the Courtney Cook sweet potato stuffed with cheese, butter casse cheese. Like that would be one that we would jump on right away and do our version of it, which, we had our digital marketing manager, film content, cottage cheese, kimchi, sweet potato, quick, easy. Similarly, there are a lot of celebrities that are also fans for us. And I mean, we lose our minds when this happens. It's so funny to have you have a crush on a celebrity or you're obsessed with the celebrity and then they're obsessed with the brand. It's like the team absolutely loves that. And so we jump on those really quickly too. And you have to, because if someone says something and there's a moment about good culture, you really have to lean in. So I would say on an everyday basis, we do it all the time. We'll connect on even over the summer when Summer I Turned Pretty was happening. We got on that and we had our own content. And it wasn't just like a shout out, but really a good culture way. We made our own dirt bombs made with good culture cottage cheese. So kind of really creating content that's in service of the content that's out there. So that's like an everyday way. And then I would say more of a bigger activation is last summer we had a pop-up in New York. It was our first ever pop-up as a brand, super fun. And the intention there was we'd had all this virality. There were all of these creators, chefs, influencers, everyday people creating magical recipes with our product and really using good culture in such innovative ways. And it's really what ignited the growth that we've had over the last few years. And so we wanted to have a pop-up for two reasons. One, because we have this obsessed loving community. We wanted to connect with them in real life. So think of it as sort of like a love letter to our fans, like everything that's been happening, bringing it to life. But then also it's an opportunity to really bring your brand world to life in a way that you can't really do digitally. And we do so much digital marketing. And so we had a pop-up. It was inspired by the recipes that made us viral. We had 5 New York creators, celebrities, chefs come and create a recipe that was very much in their own style, but using good culture. And then we invited the fans in to actually kind of live in this world and try all the samples. And then kind of in a full circle moment, digital to in real life and then back to digital, which is so important, I think, when you're having a pop-up in one location. Like, how do you make it have national legs? Then we had on the back end of it a ton of content reflective of the event that anybody who wasn't there could share in. And it just was like a virtuous cycle of even more ways to use good culture.
Which was fantastic. I want to congratulate you for it. I loved it. I'm sad I missed it though, but I felt I was there because I saw all the content and it was really fun. And I feel that the FOMO is real and people wanted more. So it was pretty congrats. What else I have here? Which trend do you find the most exciting right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think building off of the last example, I do think this pop-up in real life opportunity for brands is really special. Again, just each one, and there's been so many good ones. I've actually been following other brands as well. It's an opportunity to really build out what your brand looks like in a much more tangible way. And I'm really inspired by how each brand does it in a different way, but it's authentic to them. And it's like, I mean, the process of creating it was pretty intense. Like, you have all of these, everything from like the sampling opportunity, but like sculptural moments that represent your brand. Like one of the ones we had that I loved was, it was in New York. And so we had very much a nod to New York, the I Heart New York. And it was like a whole wall sculpture that was I Heart Cottage Cheese, but it was, tubs of good culture. Like that's how we came to life. But be it that or, whatever makes sense for the brand who's doing it, I just think it's an opportunity for immersion for your biggest super fans to really understand, like, what does a world of good culture or brand be look like?
I love it. Yeah, and you're right. Everyone has the brands that does it has the opportunity to go and like that you are living and breathing with the brand and through digital in your case, seeing it like real. It's like when you see the movie and then you go to the Disney parks or
Yes,
the Universal.
exactly.
It's like
It's
this is the
immersive.
world. Yeah, that feeling is great. So we're seeing more brands jumping into music, entertainment, sports. It's something that we're really connected to. And it's, I wouldn't say it's new because you can think of many brands actually being, connected with music since forever. But I think now it's growing a lot and everyone is thinking like, how can we be part of some entertainment moment? So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think entertainment can be a core part of how brands engage with people?
I do. I think it works best when there's a reason for it and it's authentic, right? So for us, protein is such an important part of our brand. And we have a lot of people who come to our brand through wellness, nutrition, and protein specifically. And so with that, we have a lot of athletes who love us organically. So I think there's an opportunity there. I mean, personally, I'm a huge music fan and live music fan. So I keep joking with the team that I want to find a way in. And I think there are ways in.
Of
But
course.
I think similarly, when people are connecting and using your product in the right situation where it makes sense, I think it can work really well.
Awesome. So now we want to talk. I mean, you just share a little bit about the pop up that you guys did in New York. Thank you for sharing. But I saw on your LinkedIn, I don't know if it's something that you want to expand on, which is the term FORO, like the fear of running out.
Yeah.
Because I saw it and I'm like, I'm obsessed. I want this to grow. Is there something you
me
want to
too.
add? Yeah, I mean, since the moment we met and we saw that brief, I was like, oh, this would be so great to do. And now when I saw the term, I'm like, are they doing something? Because this will be great. So I don't know if there is something you want to share and also share with our audience why we're talking about this fear of running out, what's going on, and what do you have in mind, if any, if anything?
So one of the things that's been wonderful and also challenging about being so viral is that our sales have massively accelerated. So, we've grown almost 300% in the past 3 years. And so as much as we have increased our supply, every time we add supply, then the demand keeps going up. And so it's actually been a pretty big source of viral content where people can't find us. And when they do, they, clear the shelf or they hoard our product. They don't want to be caught without it the next time. And so, scarcity is the best form of marketing. So certainly, that has, I think, created even more fire. But one of our partners came up with this term with us, which is instead of FOMO, it's FORO. Yeah. So, instead of fear of missing out, it's fear of running out. And it's real. And, when people are doing those things, like I described, where they're, making sure that they are driving around to 5 stores until they find us. And believe me, people email us and tell us everything that they've done to get this product and how it's like the treasure hunt find of it. So yeah, it's something we've kind of played with. We actually made little pins that say Foro on them that are really cute. And I think, I don't know, as the salesperson, I'm looking forward to the day where people don't have Foro, but in the meantime, while they do, we're having a lot of fun, kind of poking fun at it.
Yeah, no, I get it. And also I feel even though there is, which I'm sure it will happen, that you will be in a place where this doesn't happen like strictly in terms of like people is able to find it everywhere and all that. I think the feeling it's something you can keep on as you build your brand equity, because I think it's such a hard and core memory, if so, or I don't know, pretty human need in a way,
Yes.
and like using it and keeping, even though the situation change, I feel it will be super smart.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is interesting about what we have achieved in the cottage cheese category is it's endless how people use our brand and our product, and it's all day, every day. And so, it's like this scoop of delicious protein that can be added to anything. And so we want to keep encouraging that, right? Like there's a million ways to use good culture, and reminding people that you want to make sure you have plenty of good culture all day, every day is not something that's going to go away.
Love it, love it. So since I think I always say this, but since we have so many women leaders listening right now that we know they want to make their own mark, we want to talk about the how. So we call the section Empowerment in Action. And basically, the goal is to leave the audience with actionable insights, lessons, and reflections to inspire change. So, how do you make sure your ideas are heard, both now and throughout your career?
Yeah, so I'm a naturally pretty quiet person. I'm not the loudest person in the room. I'm not the person who necessarily speaks first. I think as I've evolved as a leader, I've maybe gotten better at that. But I think that can actually be a really big strength. If you are someone who is observant and noticing and listening, then when you do speak, your ideas carry a lot of weight. And so I'm not suggesting that that's a strategy, but I think a lot of people feel that way when they're in a room full of people who, kind of fill the gap more quickly. I think it also happens. I mean, we are talking about women who brand. I think in general, men are more comfortable speaking more quickly. And I have often been a single woman in a room full of men. And so I think harnessing that thoughtfulness as a strength can be super powerful, because then when you say something, people assign a lot of weight to it. And so I would say, don't be afraid to not have to be the first one to speak every single time.
Love it. And as you said, I feel a lot of us has been in that situation, and it can be taken as as a weakness, but it's not, for sure. I mean, there is a reason you are in the role you are right now, and I'm excited for our audience to listen to your answer, because I think it will be really inspiring. So, if a fellow leader in the industry wants to start speaking publicly, or be joining podcasts or writing, but doesn't know where to begin, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, great question. As someone who also doesn't do this naturally. And I think that's so true for so many people, right? Like there are people who are just wonderfully gifted and seamless about it. But I think the first time I ever spoke publicly was a long time ago. It was probably 15 years ago. And I started with a formal presentation to a very large audience. And if I'm totally honest, I did a terrible job. Like I don't remember anything. I was so nervous. And it was so upsetting that I sort of decided after that I wasn't going to do it again. And it took me a really long time to try again. So I think the advice I would give is, number one, like put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone. However, do it and start small. There's so many ways to speak or be heard or have a voice that matters, and find something that feels authentic. So, whether that's a panel, it's one-to-one, I think starting in an environment where you feel comfortable is really important. And then the other thing is like, start softball with it, right? Like find a topic that you feel really confident about, because that's just going to feel more natural and easier. And it's just kind of one step at a time. And as soon as I started to do that, and it took me like a decade before I did after that fateful first one, it got a lot easier. But it's not easy. It's still not easy, right? If it doesn't come naturally to you, but I think people want to hear what you have to say, or they wouldn't ask you to speak. So just have that confidence. And I started doing more of it very intentionally maybe 10 years ago, because I had a lot of people who work for me, women and men, who were like, hey, what is your advice on this? And I was like, oh, great. I can't really give them advice because I'm not doing it. And so I started doing it to be a better mentor and to
Love
be
it.
a better leader, not because I love doing it, but it's gotten a lot easier. And now it's, I would say, maybe not something I love, but something I can enjoy.
Love it. Oh, thank you. I'm really, I feel I always say thank you for sharing, but because I know, I mean, the whole reason I create this podcast is to be able to listen to this because, I mean, I heard about you in South by Southwest, but not everyone has the access to go to South by Southwest. And I know that my audience are CMOs that they might have the access to go, but still, like, it's not the question. Like, when you are in a top leadership position, you don't necessarily go to others and how do you make this decision and how do you do to speak? Like, people kind of sometimes expect for you to have the answers and know the way. So I really, really value that you're here and that you're sharing that because I'm sure it will be impactful for the ones listening and it's impactful for me. So I'm really grateful. And thank you for sharing that because I think there are a lot of actionable insights in what you share, the little steps or starting in a way that makes, the most comfortable topic for you. And definitely we all have something to say. And the reason that you and every of us are in this, sort of positions is because at some point we said something or we proved something that, made us progress. And now we're where we are. So I always encourage it, and that's why I have this podcast because I think it's so important. But I also understand that it's not easy. My personality, as you can see, is I like to talk and I like to have these conversations. Still, I'm always like before going to a speaking room or when I speak at companies or whatever. I'm scared because like you're exposing yourself there, and I also create content. And when I hit post, I'm like, should I? Because people, it's scary. It's scary, but
It takes
as
courage.
the more you do it, and especially when you receive certain feedback from people that appreciate it, then okay, this is good. And I mean, you can have many opinions, but I think the people that get inspired is the most important because I think it's such a noble cause to share what you know and share how you did it, so others can get inspired at some.
Yeah, I love your build about the feedback actually, because I do feel like that makes you want to do it more. Like the South by Southwest thing that you mentioned, which was about why being a mom in the workplace actually makes you stronger. My friend Rebecca asked me to be on that panel with her and some other executive moms, which, first of all, just being on stage with like other badass mom executives is super inspiring. But that audience, and it was nice to do it in real life, was made up of primarily moms or people who might want to be moms. And there was so much emotion in the room. I think, people really connected with what we were saying. And I got emotional on the stage, which is sort of embarrassing, but also really just, it was such a deep connection, and the feedback after, that we got from people in the audience, it makes you want to do that again because that you're having an impact on people, which is really special.
That's true. And you had it. I mean, when I discovered that and shared with my sister, and she's like, I want to work with them. Oh my God. And it's crazy because it's not that there are a few women that are working, but there are a few that are talking about it. So
That's
you
right.
connect with it. And that's the whole reason of this podcast. I want to make sure we know the women behind the brands because there are a lot. It's just that sometimes it can happen that men speak faster or jump more into podcasts or panels than us. So I really want to make sure that we have someone to look at, not just from the starting level, but your peers.
Absolutely.
So yes, it's beautiful. I love it. I actually had speaking session in December before Christmas in Hudson Yards in such a big company, and I would say it was one of the biggest conference that I gave, and I was kind of scared. So I went there and I started talking and I started being myself, and at some point I said and leaders, I will say something here. You should do X, Y, and Z. And then I laugh while talking because I'm giving them instructions. And I'm like, okay, I'm not here to give you instructions, but I saw this and this and that. And I said that because someone raised their hand to ask a question, and she's an intern, and she's 20 years old. She's a Latina, and she said Ale, what you said, because I was talking about this contradiction or fear that we tend to have when we are creating content, like as a creators on socials. But then you also want to be professional. So you don't want like your boss to follow you, or because you are doing a get ready with me. And it can mean that you are not, I don't know, a strong businesswoman or a strong, I don't know, employee. But it's false. It's 100% false.
We're all human beings.
I mean, and to me, it happens still that I'm recording a Get Ready With Me, and I have a lot of brands or CMOs, marketers that follow me on my socials because are public. And sometimes I think, like, should I? And it's just a Get Ready With Me. But I don't want them to feel that I'm not as professional. I need to be posting my podcast. So I say it because it happens to me, but I know the answer, so I just move forward. But I say it, and she's like, Ale, I was so scared because I do content, but this is my first month at this company, and I don't want for them to not treating me serious. And it's a public account, so they can see it, whatever. And she started crying. And she said, like, thank you for saying this. Because to me, and she also said something around the marketing terms, that we marketers use a lot of terms that people don't get sometimes. So she's like, sometimes I don't understand the terms, but I don't want to ask because I don't want them to look at me like as I don't know. And she said it, and that's why I did the call to action. Like, everyone here already, you guys know, she creates content, and she don't understand X, Y, and Z, and everyone laughed, and it was supportive, but it was important for me. That was the whole mission. I was there to help her have a better relationship, which wasn't my initial goal, but it was just by me being Latina, speaking and talking, I was able to impact her. So yes, just to say that
for her is so great too.
It was great. So when you think about your work and impact, what do you hope to leave behind in this industry?
I think I guess I'd answer this in two ways. One is, like I said in the beginning, like I've been very intentional about working on brands who are making an impact. And so I think, at the most literal level, I want to leave an impact with those brands and encourage people to lead with values and mission, and feel like that's something that they can do and still be really successful in business. So that's kind of one way to answer it. I think it's been interesting. I mean, I'm on, I think, 30 years into a career now, and I've certainly really evolved, I would say, in the last 10 years. I spent the first 20 years, like so many people, just like grinding and just wanting to achieve and work hard and make a mark. And I think that's really important. Like, if you're not actually doing something tangible, you can't be successful. So I think that's important. But I think, especially after I raised kids and I took on more people leadership, I think the last 10 years, I've really made it part of what it means to me to be successful, to be a mentor, to be a leader for people. And the same way I said I'm sort of naturally introverted, I'm not really naturally like a soft and warm, fuzzy person, or at least I wouldn't have described myself that way in the first 20 years. Like, I'm kind of a like get shit done sort of person. But I think, as I've just kind of like had more life experience, I think it's very rewarding to be more of a mentor and really help other people in their career. And so I think if I look at what I want the last years of my career to be like, that's an impact that I want to leave, especially with women, because there's not enough of that. I think people like you are doing really wonderful things by making more spotlighted. But I think as individuals, it's about what you do as an individual. And to me, that's super important.
I love it. We need more of this for sure. So thank you for sharing. Now, one of my favorite parts, the quick fire round. The rules are simple. I'm going to throw a few questions and you answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Winning an award or achieving real business results?
Real business results.
Innovating in digital formats or creating offline consumer experiences?
Oh, they're both important.
What's harder in marketing, to innovate or to build trust?
I think build trust.
Great ideas need big budgets?
I don't think so.
Culture leads brand or brands leads culture?
Both.
Who really builds a brand, the audience or the people behind it?
Both.
Stories told by creators or by the brand?
It's both, especially our brand.
Communication in the US, Spanish, English, or both?
All.
Love it. So now before I let you go, this season we are building the Women Who Brand playlist and we're asking our guests to pick a song that represents their leadership style or the essence of their brand. So what song are you adding to the list?
So I'm so glad I'm on this season because music is so important to me.
Yes, you told me.
Yeah, and I love electronic music, so I'm going to have an electronic music song. So I think When a Fire Starts to Burn by Disclosure is a good one.
Love
I don't know
it.
if you know that song, but they actually sample this like kind of motivational preacher guy
Okay.
in the song. It's a great dancey song. But I think to me, what it means is when you have fire for what you're doing and you really believe in it, you will be bold and you will take chances.
I love
And,
it.
you know, when you do what you love, you will love what you do. That's like a mantra of mine. And I think that song, like, it hypes me up and it's like how I want people to show up on my team to just feel empowered to be bold.
Love it. What can you say the name again?
When a fire starts to burn.
I love it, love it, love it,
You
love it, love
probably
it.
know it.
No,
If you
yeah,
hear
yeah,
it,
I
you'll
know,
know.
I know, I know, I know, I know.
If I had a
Love
good singing
it.
voice, I would sing for you, but I don't.
Well, we can give it to my soon-to-be husband because he's a
Yes.
musician. He's a
Perfect.
singer-songwriter. Love it. Excellent choice. We will actually send you the full playlist once the season
I can't wait.
is
I love
ready.
that.
So finally, love. Two questions to close. What does it mean to you to be a woman who brands? And what advice would you give to a woman in the creative industry, especially one in a leadership position?
Yeah. So I think what it means to be a woman who brand is anybody who works on a brand in any capacity. And I think that's marketers to, you know, supply chain to finance, like anyone who's working on a brand can be a woman who brands. And for me personally, it's about, like I said, at this point in life and career to support other women who brand. The second part of your question was, yeah, this advice I give to just like in general, but I think it's important for leaders as well. If you see a hole, fill it. Like, and what I mean by that is if you are given an opportunity, even if it's one that maybe you don't feel like you totally know what you're doing, don't be afraid to try it because you probably know more than you think. And putting yourself out there and trying new things, if someone asks you to do something, it's because they believe in you. And so just believe in yourself. And there are so many ways to get to an outcome, and you don't have to take a linear path. You know, don't be afraid to zig and zag and add new things because it's how you grow. I mean, not just as a leader, but as a human, is getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things.
That's true. So thank you so much, Heather, for sharing your insights with us, your journey with us, your advice with us. I think like in your path to become or be that I know you are already, but continue to be a mentor. This was such an important moment for that path, I hope, because I'm sure it will serve as a mentorship for many listeners.
I hope
And
so
I
too.
really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome.
Love it. So, and to all the women who brand listening or reading, remember your leadership shapes culture. Your decisions drive impact. Your ideas can redefine brands, and your voice matters. Take what inspired you today to guide your own path. Until next time, ciao.